We're giving away a Nintendo Switch in today's video. Stick around to see how you can win.
Like you probably already know, the main content we got the past few weeks is the crazy experimental card. Aside that, there was a Creator Cup tournament with a $10,000 NA prize pool. I grabbed my buddy SVB and we tried to assemble some friends to properly enter this tournament and try and win. Well, as much as we can anyway. I can't stress enough that playing this way reinvigorated my love for Overwatch and recentered me onto what can be so beautiful about this game. Playing the game properly is entirely different from what most people experience with Overwatch. That should be incentivized in the game more for everybody. So despite most of our members not having any team experience whatsoever, with 5 days of practice, we scrimmed, tried to work out our weaknesses, and through the power of friendship and hard work, we pretty quickly began improving. We made it to the second round where we faced against Solaris, the team that ended up winning everything. We weren't ready to face such a tough opponent so early, but I'm proud to say we were improving so rapidly that we nearly took a map from a team consisting mostly of tier 2 and former pros. That's impressive.
1 second left. There's 1 second left between beating a semi-pro team. I can't believe it. Oh, please. I didn't know it was that close. 1.7 seconds, forgive me. Can you see this? Play this in slow motion, dude. Play this in slow mo. It's 0.7 of a second. How close does it get? 0.5 of a second.
Yeah.
Oh my God, dude.
Playing in a team environment like this makes you a better player, makes you actually have to confront your weaknesses because you're beholden to your team and trying to work with them, and is overall just a less toxic environment. Because when your teammate makes a mistake, you can talk about it and know they meant well, while the ranked experience of that is terrible, the team experience of that is amazing. And I want to develop these points a little bit more right after a quick message from today's video sponsor.
Playing in the Overwatch Creator Tournament was a blast. Overwatch is a game that is amazing with friends, but terrible without them. Don't be stuck playing with randoms ever again. If you want the best place to find friends to play with, install Plink. Plink is an LFG app that syncs all your gaming profiles across all the major gaming platforms and tracks stats on all your games. It's never been easier to play with or against friends with how easy Plink gets you connected. Plink will get you matched up with like-minded teammates that have similar skill ratings and playing schedule for games like Overwatch, but really any game out there. Apex, R6, PUBG, Fortnite, Call of Duty, you name it, they got it. Simple, never game alone ever again. And today, Plink and I have a special gift for you. One lucky subscriber to my Plink profile will be awarded a Nintendo Switch. It'll be picked randomly and we'll announce the winner on a community post. All you have to do is take the link in the description, install Plink, add me, and sign up for push notifications so you can see when I start playing and we can have fun together. If you want to win a Switch, click the link in the description.
Now, for those of you who have been fans of Your Overwatch over the years, a lot of the things I'm going to say are going to sound like me playing the hits. But having gone through this experience, it really emboldens me on some points that often have been controversial over the years that I think with enough time we can say how it would be best to handle in the future with Overwatch 2 and the radical changes we expect, or hope to at least, be coming. And the first point in that is that Overwatch is a team game, but punishes you for playing in a team. After this tournament, I'm reminded that if Overwatch 2 does not rectify this, it's really going to struggle long term. Because whereas other games might be able to lean into their solo QE nature, where each individual player has like the same rifle or potential to pop off, Overwatch is a game, no matter how it's balanced, is always going to be largely interconnected with your team. You want to be running synergistic comps and playing to set each other up, regardless of the meta. Over the years, I've grown tired, I guess, from beating on this drum because it seemed like Blizzard was so adverse to it, and I'd get arguments back that it's important for in ranked for you to feel like you easily can step in and out at your own leisure. That's why we don't have things like Decay SR anymore, and ranked feels so forgiving for a very casual player, but biasing the ranked experience that way eroded the core of the game in so many ways. And to be fair to Blizzard, I think them trying to put out a creator tournament like this that's aimed for not pro level players players, at least not only them, kind of indicates that they might be coming along on this journey more than they've said publicly so far. We won't really know until the future announcements for Overwatch 2. I just struggle to see why we can't have both, seeing as I think that's what would solve so many players' expectations of the game. Because for so many years, a lot of players expect to have a bad time playing Overwatch, as opposed to the feeling I had in the tournament, where I was constantly learning more things about my responsibility as a player, and because I have the opportunity to work with the same team, we can continue our journey of improvement, and I can figure out things that I'm weak on and grind those specifically to try to help my team. An example of this is in the experimental card, Lucio could drop the beat on someone's head and one-hit kill them. Never having done this mechanic before, because it would have just been a waste. Prior to it being a mechanic, I was really bad at it to start. So I trained in the training range, jumping off walls and landing on the bots' heads. And I got okay at it. Not too comfortable, but you know, enough practice to that when we went up against Solaris on Eichenwald, the map we nearly won and fully held against a mostly tier 2 pro team. I'm gonna keep saying that to try to pat myself on the back. I did land a beat on top of a tank and it felt amazing. I think I'm gonna try to a wall ride and drop a beat on something, which is entirely different from everyone's normal ranked experience, where 90% or more of a player's emotions are going towards the rest of the team. Confusion on what you're even trying to be doing at a given time, or what you should do, or what the plan is, or why your team isn't doing what you want them to do, and vice versa. All that gets eroded away when you're all on the same page playing with like-minded players. Why is that not the norm in Overwatch? Because I think it's required, considering the structure of the game demands that you have a very interconnected relationship to your team, unlike other games. Other games have crossfires, taking different positions, maybe combining an ability or two, but Overwatch, because we have tanks and healers, the lifelines and interconnectivity of a team fight are so much more crucial. And this shouldn't be a surprise to anybody who's tried to walk out of a choke without a main tank in tow. We all know this. It just seems sometimes Blizzard forgets it and balances away from these principles rather than focusing towards them, which when you get guys like Flats, Samju, and Violet on the case, they do genius things like reducing the AoE healing in the game or emphasize the main tank's role, all of which culminated in a balance patch that wasn't just goofy and fun, but was actually good, despite wackiness in it all over the place. This is why I center back on it being more important that Overwatch focuses on its core fundamentals as opposed to hero balance, quote unquote. Because the feeling that the game's really deep and you can swap to a lot of picks viably is not the same thing as feeling like the top picks that mostly get played are fun. Those ideas are dramatically at odds. And it's a key point that I hope Blizzard starts to rectify in 2022, because that pro build is coming up fast. I don't know what they're going to do. You're not going to be able to lean on just wacky balancing all the time. We're going to need to know about serious change coming around the corner. But in any case, another thing that I wanted to talk about the tournament and why it's so important to me is that it reminded me how to better explain an argument that when I've made in years past often didn't land as strongly with the community as I wish it did. I used to say this rather controversial phrase that there's no such thing as fair competition, and striving for competition to just be fair rather than rewarding is a massive mistake. And it's an even bigger mistake in Overwatch, a game that is so deep and dynamic that if your goal is just 50% win rate as the metric for what determines whether your matchmaking system works or not, you're kind of missing the point of what competition is. And what I mean is getting the opportunity to play in a tournament against teams that were below our skill rating and kind of destroying them a bit, teaching them a few things, then going up against a tier 2 team who destroyed us for the most part and really challenged us in order to improve our game, you'd have to play like a year in ranked to get even close to the amount of game understanding and development that just playing those two games can get you. The problem with the ranked matchmaker as we have it now is that it's designed to try to pad your comfort level from game to game, where you're supposed to feel like the people you're playing with and against are of similar mechanical skill. And that's a nonsense idea to me for the most part, because realistically, so much about what you do in Overwatch is about how you play the team game together. And while the one-to-one skill comparison matters, especially if like you're a bronze widow against a GM one, in a lot of cases, a lot of the decision making is your moment-to-moment positioning or ability timing as opposed to just your raw mechanics. That's the game that we have and most of us fell in love with. We're not playing a pure shooter game. So it doesn't really make sense to matchmake just for that 50% win rate. In fact, I think it traps people in bad mindsets, ingrains bad habits, as opposed to knowing you're playing up against a better player so that you can stop, think, and learn from why they're clowning you. Instead, in Overwatch, with the Smurf epidemic, we're constantly getting clowned by Smurfs and not really sure where they actually are. That works a lot differently if you're playing in a high stakes match in a tournament where you progress and beat the other gold teams, but all of a sudden you're up against a diamond team who's trying to win the tournament in your skill bracket. And maybe you, like we did up against a pro team, nearly get a map against them, which allows you to actually feel good about your accomplishments and know that you're able to punch above your weight. You can feel the opportunity to improve and get back out there and keep working on understanding and improving at the game. Whereas the Overwatch ranked experience is so random, you never really know what's your fault because so much of it isn't your fault. Almost by design. It's almost as if they want the ranked experience to be chaotic, so you never have to take responsibility for your own gameplay. But when you have a extremely competitive game like Overwatch actually is, that's a much more damaging lie than it is in other games that are more structured around the individual. No matter how they balance the game, especially into Overwatch 2, your skill as a player is always going to be how you get more out of your team, while also maximizing your own mechanics, of course. But that's always going to be the reward structure. There's no getting away from that. Even as they tried their hardest to balance the game to be more shootery, it's still been the case, just with more headshots and less goats. And the funny thing is, this experimental card that got put out was pretty goatsy, not gonna lie, but a lot of people were really happy about it. In fact, I don't think I saw a single complaint about how OP the tanks were, mainly because when you have close range tanks that only do one job well at a time, as opposed to the DLC style tanks that can shoot at range and are incredibly flexible in lots of different situations, well, even when those old school tanks are clearly busted, they still interact well with the game. You still feel like you have plays to make against them and that they have limitations on their power since they have to run at you. And if you stop moving and let them run at you, okay, well, fine, you lost. But a lot of other characters that have been added to the game since that early love fest that Overwatch had for quite a while sort of took away from that. And I think if you want to have a much more long, elaborate discussion on this, I recently just recorded a podcast with Flats, Samito, SVB, and myself, obviously, the Group Up show, where we kind of recap in bigger depth the impact of this patch and what moves Blizzard has to make in 2022. And I've been pretty optimistic about 5v5, to be honest. I think it's required due to the queue times and the distribution of tank players that we actually have in the community. But at the same time, playing on this experimental patch reminded me how important it is for tanks to have the personality of space makers, not thick DPS. And I'm not so sure how Blizzard is going to reconcile that come Overwatch 2. It's been the case from the past year or so that due to the way a few supports have been reworked, that they are the ones that feel like they can hold their ground better than a tank. And tanks just get bullied, so you better be able to shoot back before you die. Okay, this has been quite a ranty video, but I think we should expect Blizzard to take this seriously. For so long, creators have asked them in order to create a secondary ladder, like a game battles or something, where these tournaments are frequent, or to put a tournament mode in the game to actually make use of that clan feature. If we don't see it in Overwatch 2, I'm going to be hugely disappointed, because regardless of the balanced state of the game, it's the only thing that I think keeps this game playable for players long term. And if we don't do it, I'm afraid that casuals will come back, realize that the experience of Overwatch is just as annoying as it ever has been, regardless if there's 2 tanks or 1 tank or whatever, and give up on the game, which I don't want to see. The game is beautiful, but allow it to be the team game it was designed to be. That's my main takeaway from going through the experience of the creator tournament. I just want more. Like, if that was what I got to play all the time, I would be so happy as a content creator. But lacking that, all I have to do is go into ranked and be expected to have to carry my team just to get up to higher ranks where the game barely improves anyway, and I never get the experience I want. And that's as someone who has reached top 500. Imagine how demoralizing it is if you're in gold or plat like a lot of players are. Overall, the tournament was a bit bittersweet for me, where it was such a breath of fresh air and wonderful, but at the same time, makes me confused why this has been so difficult to access all these years. Why does Overwatch make it so hard to enjoy the best version of the game? I don't have a good answer. And I've never got satisfactory answers from the developers other than they want ranked to exist as a easy to get into mode. But at the same time, they expect it to exist as the path to pro. You can't have it both ways. If the main ranked mode is going to be a casual mode, then you need to have a team-based one somewhere. Either a dedicated game battles mode, face it, in-game tournaments, something like that would inject so much life in this game and allow us to experience that cool gameplay we see when we watch Overwatch League, those of us that do. This game's gonna struggle to succeed coming into Overwatch 2 if they don't integrate the experience that we watch when we watch the top levels play into the normal experience of players. And I want to try to give the devs a lot of leeway here. Obviously, this year has been horrific for them. They're overcoming a lot internally, but as the year comes to a close, I'm looking to that Q1 early build of Overwatch 2 with a very critical eye. They're gonna have to make some real quick adaptations and remember what made this game great instead of trying to develop away from it constantly. All right, everybody, that's it for today's rant video. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and don't forget to check out Plink. It'll be more difficult, but it'll be more rewarding, regardless of the number Blizzard gives you based on your performance. Ignore that and instead focus on the gameplay, and you'll love Overwatch again, regardless of what rank you get. Playing with like-minded players is the way to go. And on top of that, we're giving away a Switch. So you'll want to click that link, subscribe to my Plink account so you can have a chance to win. That's been it for me. I've been Frito for your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.